Good day. Welcome to Powerboost Meditation. My name's Judi, and it's wonderful that you're joining this session. And just before we started, I was sort of giggling with the wonderful behind the scenes team. We're in this technology where we can do all sorts of different things, different functions. We can record, etc. We can video, and we can also come into audio or come out of audio, and that's called mute. So we have this little button we can click that says mute. And at that moment, when we feel it's the right moment to mute, we just hit that button. It's so easy. And ta-da, no sound. And so we were just reflecting on this idea of having a mute button inside, knowing when it's necessary to mute and when we should unmute. And sometimes we get that very mixed up and we regret it later. So it's a very sensitive thing. I don't want to mute and just go into passive aggression, right? This isn't about repressing myself or silencing myself. It's coming from a particular stage and understanding. So it takes time to refine that mute button and use it wisely. But I was remembering one of our previous spiritual heads of the organization, the Brahma Kumaris, that inform these sessions. And that was Dadi Gulzar. And she had a very natural capacity to go into what we call silence, to mute. And it's because she just didn't have a lot of, we say, waste or activity or a sort of reactivity going on inside. But also, she used those times of mute wisely. She wasn't doing nothing when she muted. She was using a different form of communication. And that, to me, is really what the mute button inside is about. Going into silence, but not silencing the self. I'm still communicating, but my language of communication is changed from sound into vibrations or feelings. So mastering of the mute button has a lot to do with mastering other forms of communication. So let's see if we can find the mute button inside and experiment a bit. So allowing the body that moment to become comfortable if it's not already. Make any adjustments so you're seated comfortably and there's no tension or discomfort that will pull my attention. And if you need to, feel free to take a breath or two to really settle into the space. Taking a breath in, and that slow release of air from the lungs that works like magic, helping everything to slow down and helping to release any hidden tension. Maybe another breath in. And again, that slow release of air from the lungs. And that also helps me to focus. So I can shift my focus easily from the breath of the lungs to the activity of my inner world. And of course, there always seems to be a lot of noise in there, lots of thoughts. And so I go into my inner world and just become the observer, as if I'm observing someone else's inner world, just a witness. There's no judgment, there's no attempt to control or change anything. Just a compassionate eye on my own inner world and all the noise going on in there. Knowing But so many of these thoughts and attitudes and perspectives will eventually make their way into what I say and do, will come into sound and action. And that will send a ripple of consequences into my future. So I want to be very attentive to what's happening in my inner world, quality and the sound, knowing how to master what's going on in my inner world, not in a violent way, in a caring way, caring about what I create. And so I observe just for a moment, just takes a few seconds to assess what's happening inside. And as I assess, I see there's a variety of things, lots of different quality of thoughts and feelings. And knowing I would like some choice, that mastery. Which thoughts and feelings do I want to convert, develop further into actions? And which thoughts and feelings do I want to perhaps understand and transform, liberate, as they won't necessarily create anything beneficial for the self or others? Those reactions. The mute button. How can I decide what will come into sound and what will be transformed through silence? It requires a lot of patience to develop this mastery and a lot of power, deep power of love. That's what I want to control the inner mute button. Not frustration, not irritation, not impatience, not confusion or fear, but love. I want love, that power of love, to be the hand controlling the mute button. There are 4 types of love I can experience. The first is love for the self, which means recognition of the self, deep regard for the self. I am much more than I appear to be. Yes, on the surface, I'm in a certain body, playing certain roles, and having certain relationships, and seeming to possess certain skills. But that's not really catching who I am. I am far more than that. I am this wondrous thing called life. I am a soul, this beautiful being that has the capacity to travel through time, to act, interact, express, and experience through the body. And within me and me alone are contained these treasures, these jewels called virtues. sometimes they're very much accessible to me, and at other times they seem to be covered with layers of other experiences, but they're always there. Peace, integrity, acceptance, joy, these beautiful jewels, these virtues, can only be found in the human soul. They can't be found anywhere on the physical planet, just within the human soul. To have love, regard for the wonder of the self, very forgiving when those virtues seem very far away. There's a reason. And the more I understand that reason, the more love I will have for the self. Love for truth is the next love. I want to understand clearly. I know that truth is benevolent, but it's also invisible. It takes a lot of patience to develop or restore that love for truth. And that's connected to the third one, love for God. We say God is truth. Love for this benevolent being who can really know and see me, the one who brings out the best of me, my number one cheerleader. It's not so much about God showing his love by changing things around me. It's all about that love being shown by returning me to my highest potential. Love for God. And the fourth love, love for humanity. I am happiest when I am loving, respectful to my fellow man. I love to love. The more time I spend cultivating these experiences of love, the more power I will have to master that mute button inside, knowing what thoughts to develop into sound and action, and those ensuing consequences, and what thoughts I need to lovingly transform into silence. Let go. Mastering this inner mute button is how I create beauty in the outer world through this power of love. Om Shanti.